Hi ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about how to find the GCF of a polynomial. So the first thing you're going to want to do is when we look at the polynomial, you're going to want to determine if the coefficients or the numbers in front of the variables have anything in common. So it might not be the actual number, it might be a factor of that number. So we're going to determine what they have in common. Then we're going to look at each term and determine if any of the variables have anything in common. And in order for them to have something in common, you're going to have a variable, the same variable for each term. Then once we figure out those two things, we're going to take those amounts out of the polynomial by dividing each term. So let's look at a few. So the first one I have is 6m squared minus 15m. The first thing I want to do is determine if the coefficients or the numbers have anything in common. So the coefficients I have are 6 and 15. Well, I can't take 6 out of 15, so that's not the common one. But I can take a 3 out of both of them. So I'm going to write down that they have a 3 in common. Then we're going to look at my variables. That's m squared and m. And together, I can take an m out of each one of them. So now I've determined what the greatest common factor of my polynomial is. Let's take it out. So I'm going to think 6m squared divided by 3m. That gives me 2m minus, and then I'm going to think 15m divided by 3m, and I get 5. I'm just going to do a quick check and take my 3m and multiply it back through to make sure that I get the problem above. So 3 times 2 is 6. M times m is m squared. That one looks good. 3 times 5 is 15, and m added to that, so that looks good. That is my greatest common factor. So I just factored it out. This here, this part right here, is the factored form. So now let's look at the next one. I have 9x minus 6. Looking at my coefficients, the number I have in common would be 3 again. But looking at my variables, notice how 9x has a variable, but 6 does not. So because only 9 has the variable, I do not have a variable in common. So now we're going to factor it out. And let's remember, this is 9x divided by 3. That leaves me 3x. Then we're going to do 6 divided by 3 minus 2. Again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to check this one. So 3 times 3 is 9x. 3 times 2 is 6, so that is my factored form. And that would be how it would be factored out with the greatest common factor. Let's look at these two. Give the first one a try. Pause the video if you need more time. But for this one, when we're looking at my variable or my coefficients, I have 20 and 12. To think about what they would have in common, it's going to be a list. So I know they both are divisible by 2. I know they're both divisible by 4. Let me think about this some more. I think that's all of it because 12 is divisible by 6, but 20 is not. So we're going to go with 4 because I want to go with the greatest amount, the largest amount. So 4. Only the 12 has an x, the 20 does not. So there's no variables in common. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and we're going to put the x, plus 20 divided by 4 is 5, and there it is. That is your factored form. Try 8w squared minus 18. If you need to, pause the video and finish up the problem, and then restart it when you're ready. The coefficients are 8 and 18. Again, these have a couple in common. 2, I don't think the 4 Oh, maybe it's just 2. Look at that. So it is 2. Notice how they both have a W. So my variables are W, right? I'm going to be able to take a W out of each one. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and it would be 1W, right? Because W squared divided by W. Minus 18 divided by 2 is 9, and the W would disappear. And then that would be my factored form. If you have any questions, we can talk about it more on Monday. Have a good weekend, ladies and gentlemen.